Channel 11 News.
We only be there to help people, to save lives.
A somber day in Pittsburgh as we remember Officer Calvin Hall.
I can tell you he made a difference with us. He made a difference with the community. And he made a difference in his life.
One life impacting so many more. Now, fellow officers, family, and friends are leaning on each other for a final farewell.
I just want to take this time to thank the city of Pittsburgh for working hard and showing love and support to our entire family.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this very special report. I'm David Johnson.
And I'm Peggy Finnegan. Family, friends, fellow officers from across the country are gathering to say goodbye to fallen Pittsburgh police officer Calvin Hall. Only 36 years old. He died last week, just 3 days after being shot in the back in Homewood, and we're told he was trying to break up a fight.
And Peggy, officers from around the area and around the country are among the thousands of people expected at Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall in Oakland to pay their last respects. The ceremony will be getting underway very soon. We're going to cover it for you live, and when it goes on, you'll hear what goes on in that service. But as you can see right there, Peggy, look at the blue caps there and the blue uniforms already in place, ready to go.
What a striking vision that is, David. It's so sad to think that we lost somebody who decided to take a job that causes you to devote your life to public service, to keeping people safe. And although he was not in the line of duty that night, Calvin Hall was actually visiting friends. He was at a party, but the police chief says he was acting under the color of his badge as he tried to kind of calm things down and make a difference and stop some tensions that were going on in fighting.
We have reporters inside and outside of Soldiers and Sailors. We're going to be taking a look at the traffic conditions for you as well. So our coverage will be continuing here for into the next hour or so. And you see the flag-draped casket. I'm looking at the cover of the program, Peggy, with a picture of him, and it has a quote from Officer Hall, and this says really all you need to know. Officer Hall saying, "Gotta go. Time to make a difference." And we heard from everyone, especially from the very top, the mayor, the police chief, all of his brothers and sisters in blue. That's what he wanted to do, and he did make a difference.
And we heard from one officer who hired him, who said one of the reasons that he was hired and thought that he would be so fit for the job is he said, "I want to make a difference in my community." And that's exactly what Officer Hall did. He was stationed in Northview Heights, and we're hearing that he was beloved there. People really liked him. He really connected with those people he served. One woman saying that a lot of the little kids would come up and say, "Hey, how do you become a police officer?" And he would talk to them about his job. And therefore, we're hearing that a lot of those young kids, say, "I want to be a police officer." But this, sadly, is one of the things that every officer knows can happen. It's a dangerous job, and even if you aren't in the uniform, you are always a police officer. And again, sounds like he was doing just that when he was trying to avoid trouble at a party that night.
You're looking live there, Channel 11 News live coverage inside Soldiers and Sailors, the flag-draped casket of Officer Calvin Hall, and all the men and women in blue and family and friends. This is open to the public, but I think if you're not there already, it would be difficult to get in. But you see all of the blue caps and blue uniforms. That is the blue line that always stands together at a trying time like this. And you heard, Peggy, and we heard it earlier this week and last week, the emotion from everyone, in particular the police chief, whose voice cracked as he almost began to cry thinking about the loss of this young man. As you said, only 36 years old. He was raised in Braddock, went to high school at Woodland Hills. He was a wrestler there and immediately went into law enforcement. He knew it's what he wanted to do. He worked at UPMC Braddock. He worked at Point Park University, Braddock as well, and then the city of Pittsburgh. Only 2 years here, but you're seeing the response and the feeling and what he meant to everyone, in particular his brothers and sisters in the police department by the gathering there inside Soldiers and Sailors, Peggy.
Yeah, and Channel 11 News wanted to bring this to you live to share with you. This is a very Pittsburgh tribute, isn't it, David?
It
is. Know, we're thanking Officer Hall. We're thanking his family because they too made a sacrifice. And you know, it's kind of unusual in this case because this is a funeral. Often we are outside the funeral. The Calvin's family, Officer Hall's family, has invited the media in to the funeral and the burial, and we thank them for that because it allows us an opportunity to give our viewers this experience and time from their homes to say thank you to Pittsburgh Police Officer Calvin Hall, but really to all officers who protect and serve us.
Even when off duty, when just at a friend's party trying to break up a fight, as you said, Peggy, he was under the colors of his badge at the time, still in danger. As all officers and their families certainly know, when they leave the house in the morning or at night or whenever the shift is, you don't know what's going to happen. This is what happened, sadly, to this young man. I'm looking at the order of service here, Peggy, and the officiant, if you will, is Reverend Earlene Coleman from Bethlehem Baptist Church in McKeesport. She, no doubt, was important in his life as he grew up there in the Mon Valley. But also, you're going to hear from primarily police officers and from family members, the musical solos by his father, a reading by his brother, and many other readings and situations there in this service will be performed by police officers.
David, I can't even imagine being a parent and losing a child, period, but singing at his funeral. How that father will be able to hold it together, I just don't know. But what a display there is, as you've said. And I just want to bring our Tricia Pittman in for a second, because Tricia, you have been watching, because there were road closures all morning, road closures, and you saw what you say you haven't seen in the past, so many officers and cars.
Unfortunately, we have seen it several times. Sorry about that, Vicky. Unfortunately, we have seen it several times where we have seen funeral processions for officers coming through the area. And, you know, I said typically it takes maybe half hour, 45 minutes to get those vehicles from one point to another. It seemed like the procession today took over an hour. It amazed me. I texted my husband. I said, I'm sitting here with tears in my eyes to see the outpouring of support from fellow officers. They were wrapped all around the North Shore. They went from the parking lots by PNC Park all the way over to the parking lots by Heinz Field. They had all the road closures there set up while these officers just worked their way around the North Shore, coming across the Fort Duquesne Bridge, over to the Portal Bridge, continuing onto the Parkway East outbound. And I just saw vehicle after vehicle, some marked, some unmarked, some vans, some cruisers, some SUVs, just a long line of flashing lights. And it just, you know, it kind of chokes you up to see that kind of support coming from all over. And being that, you know, we are so close to West Virginia and Maryland, you know, these could be officers from the tri-state area and not just even here in Pennsylvania. So very large outpouring there. Now, just want to mention to anyone that is trying to travel through the area, the roads are open once again. We do have all of the closures lifted, so they no longer have the Parkway West at the Fort Pitt Bridge blocked off. They no longer have the Fort Duquesne Bridge blocked off. Traffic is once again moving through the area, but it was something that, like I said, choked me up to see.
Yeah, when you talk about that emotion, Tricia, one thing that hit me yesterday, and maybe you saw this in Peggy as well, was the officer's police cruiser parked out in front of Soldiers and Sailors, lights on, with the wreath, partially covered in black for memorial purposes, obviously, and then across the way, family members literally holding on to the police officers in grief, and the officers themselves choked with emotion. And it's what you spoke to just now, Tricia, and Peggy, you as well. This guy, first of all, to have an officer fall at all, but this guy really, really touched people's lives in a deep and special way.
Yeah, and some of the stories that we've heard about him, people really found him likable. You know, just he was what I'm gleaning from all that is he was just a good guy, always smiling, always reaching out to people, trying to make their lives better. And you know what? He may only be 36 years old when he passed, but he did. He touched people.
No question. I'm looking at the obituary here, and there's a lot to it, but part of it is quotes from different people and from the family. He will be remembered for the unconditional love he had for his family and friends, his devotion to uplifting the communities he served, and you all spoke to that just now, for his bravery. His bright smile and personality will continue to live on in all who he came in contact with. I think that is right to the points you're making, Peggy, the impact he had. And he was chosen for that Northview Heights position because of his connection to the community. It's not always an easy job to take, where it is so important, the community policing, who you know, working with people to try to reduce crime, and he was picked for that spot.
And it sounds like he was perfect for that spot. Just to give us an idea of what is happening outside Soldiers and Sailors, we have our Mike Holden stationed there. Mike, I'm sure you have been watching the people stream in. Set the scene for us, please.
Peggy, we've been out here since 3:30 this morning, and when we initially arrived, there was absolutely no traffic. All of the roads were still open, and now, fast forward this afternoon, as we're approaching a little after 11 o'clock, I want to walk this way and show you the massive line of police cars. I tried to count. I lost count at probably 150, and it stretches all the way down 5th. I'm going to hop down here as well and just give you guys some perspective. So we're in Oakland, an extremely busy area where you could see Starbucks off in the distance, and I started observing the different police cars. You have Allegheny County Police, Bethel Park, Beaver County, State Police, Erie, Pennsylvania Police, and then several state troopers. And it was really a moment that just kind of captured your breath. Very emotional. I actually watched a lot of people who were standing out here. One guy in particular who brought his 2 young children, a little boy and a little girl who were 8 and 5 years old. And I asked him, why did you come out here? Why was it important for you to bring your family here? And he simply said, this is a moment in history. It's a really, really dark day in Pittsburgh, but you have to look at this moment and build it as a moment of understanding and a moment of appreciation for these guys and girls who put their lives on the line each and every day. But when speaking of this moment that just took your breath away, it was this line of police cars that went all the way down 5th and then just continued to extend down. We're working to get more reaction from family, friends, and loved ones. So for now, I'm going to send it back to you in the studio.
Wow, look at that line of police cars. Thank you, Mike Holden, down on the street there for us. We are hearing that the funeral service for Officer Calvin Hall is about to begin, so we want to go back inside Soldiers and Sailors Hall and listen.
All right, if it hasn't started immediately, I'm going to speak until someone starts speaking or a procession begins, and I'm looking again at the order of service, and there will be a processional, and that includes the Greater Pittsburgh Police Emerald Society pipes and drums, then the national anthem, a welcome from the Reverend Earlene Coleman. I mentioned her name before. She is going to be conducting the service, so she'll have the opening prayer, scripture reading, 23rd Psalm. That's going to be by a detective, a musical solo, Amazing Grace, Officer Michael Gary with that one. Another scripture reading from an officer, the sermon from Reverend Coleman. And then earlier saw speakers there, the mayor and other city officials who will be speakers. Tricia was talking about the traffic. We saw Mayor Peduto, he will speak. The police chief, Scott Schubert, will speak. The public safety director, Wendell Hisrick, and also Officer Hall's zone commander, Christopher Ragland, he's going to speak. He also got choked up with the emotion, understandably, the other day. There will be 2 other police officers speaking, a sergeant and an officer, a reading from the family by his brother, Curtis Hall, and I mentioned that musical solo from his father. This may be the beginning of the processional, so I'm going to be quiet here, and we're going to watch this and see what happens. Members of the family, I should see, being brought in. That's Officer Hall's family, Peggy. being escorted in. That's what those seats are being reserved for.
And we're hearing he came from a very large and loving family. We heard from his sister yesterday talking about how this has ripped her mother's heart right out of her.
And you mentioned how can the father have the strength to sing. It's amazing the families and friends' strength that we see in situations like this. The sister the other day, I think it was yesterday, who spoke, she was so composed. It amazed us both to listen to her and to see her. So what they're doing is they're getting the family their seats up front, and I believe after that takes place, then the service will officially begin. So there's several rows for family and friends, but as we widen out the shot, the rest of soldiers and sailors, which is a big hall, it holds a couple thousand people at least, and you see the rest are police officers.
And that is just a really touching, amazing image to see all those men and women in blue. What a tight-knit community. When something happens to one of their own, they band together and...
Almost like no other group.
Right.
Maybe military, but it's impressive to see. And when one of them falls, as it so sadly happened this time, they are there for the family. They're there for each other because they feel it. These are the men and women who go to work with them every day.
And it's important to point out, while this is going on, you see this sea of blue. There are still people right now working to keep our city safe. The job never ends. The service never ends.
Right. And yesterday you heard from the Public Safety Director, Wendell Hisrick, who said, we made a promise to the family that we will catch the person who did this. An arrest has been made, and that investigation and that prosecution will go from there. But today we are here to honor this officer, and we will hear moving words from the Bible, from the Reverend, from those who knew this officer well, who commanded him, his mayor, his police chief, his public safety director, his own commander, and the men who worked with him as well, Peggy.
And the pallbearers today, although we didn't see them, they're from his family, but from his law enforcement family, David. Officer Reginald Eland, Officer William Song, Officer Kevin Hodges, Officer Joseph Bucci, Officer Ronald P. Doria, Detective Adam Beatty, and Officer Dustin Brazel. You're
looking at the mayor right there, Wendell Hisrick, and then with the cap in uniform is the police chief, Scott Schubert, and other top police command officials, zone commanders, as you see right there, right near the casket. And it's about to begin, it seems, or at least they're getting ready.
Mr. Boy, 4-4, by the center. Quick, mark.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets were clear, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Reverend Earlene Colvin.
Good morning. I take this opportunity to welcome you on behalf of the family of Officer Calvin Hall, on behalf of the officers of the city of Pittsburgh, on behalf of the officials of the city of Pittsburgh. We welcome you to this memorial service where we know that a life has gone too soon, but we are here to remember the great things that he has done. Please bow with me as we go before the Lord. All-wise and eternal God, we come before you in the precious, the mighty, the matchless, and strong name of Jesus the Christ. We come with bowed heads and humbled hearts, Lord God, for this is a time of sadness, Lord. This is a time where we do have questions when we ask why. But we know that you are a God who never ever makes a mistake. We know that you do all things and you do all things well. We know, Lord God, that you will work all things together for our good, be they bad or good. So we ask, Lord, that all that is said and done will cause great memories to be held in the hearts of each and every person that's here. For there are memories that no one can take from each and every person that has experienced the life of Officer Calvin Hall. So God, we thank you for each person that has made their way out here. We thank you that we know that your presence is here. We thank you for this family, God, and we ask that you wrap your loving arms around them, comfort them, keep them, because when all of this crowd, this magnificent crowd is gone, and they're there alone, you'll still be by their side. So we just ask, God, that you continue to keep them as they go forth on the last leg of this journey in remembering the life of Officer Calvin Hall. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please remove your hats and be seated. We will now have a reading of Scripture from Detective Adam Beatty.
A reading from the book of Psalms. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lay down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Master Police Officer Michael Gay.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Was lost, oh, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first knee dangerous toils and snares. We have already come. 'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home.
A reading of Scripture by Officer Dustin Brozell.
A reading from the book of John. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And where I go, you know, and the way you know. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going, and how can we know the way? Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Reverend Erlene Coleman.
I did not know Reverend Calvin Hall personally, but a couple of times I did have the opportunity as we passed one another at UPMC McKeesport to say hi as he was working there. But even though I didn't know him personally, there was someone else that knew him. And so I asked him, what would you say about this man on this day? We attend this memorial service, this celebration of life today, knowing that this is a life gone too soon. This officer died as he lived, working to keep the peace. He was a peacemaker. In the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 9, Jesus says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." Jesus is speaking to the people on the Mount of Olives, and in chapters 5 through 7, it is called the Sermon on the Mount. And this verse comes from what is called the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes speak to the character of those in the kingdom of God. As I listened and watched the news reporters, the reporters said over and over again that Officer Calvin Hall was off duty. In a sense, he was. That kept sticking in my spirit when they would say he was off duty. Something kept ringing in my spirit, and as I prayed, I got a response from the Holy Spirit. Off duty he was, in the sense that he was not working a shift. He was not wearing his uniform or his badge, and he was not carrying his gun. But there's another piece to the uniform of officers. Another piece that's not seen by the natural eye. That other part to the uniform is a caring heart, the heart of a peacemaker. It can't be removed, that piece, even when he is supposedly off duty. The heart that wants to keep peace, the heart that wants to make peace, the heart that wants to protect others, as well as him or herself. But in spite of wanting to protect themselves, each day he or she wears that uniform and faces the issues of each day. The caring heart is never off duty. That's why on July 14th, when Officer Hall was supposed to be off duty, he stepped in trying to make peace. That piece of the uniform that you cannot see with the natural eye was still at work. Let me give you a story that I'm going to give you this little short story because I am an avid law enforcement watcher. I watch all of the shows. I watch Chicago PD, Blue Bloods, Hawaii Five-0, SUV, SWAT, The Code, FBI, just to name a few. My husband would ask me sometimes, aren't you tired of catching criminals? No, not yet. But my favorite is Gunsmoke. I like Matt Dillon. He's a great law enforcer. Recently, they played an episode of a farmer who really hadn't done a lot in his life. He hadn't achieved a whole lot. He had his farm and he had his wife, and they had never had children. And one day his wife was talking to him, and in conversation she said to him, "You will never amount to nothing." He was a very quiet, reserved man. He was a fearful man. He didn't step up and step into things. And so he sat there listening to his wife verbally abusing him. And he said to her, as she's taking her apron off after cleaning up the kitchen, and he said, "I'm not going to be here in the morning." She said, "Oh, you're not going to go nowhere." He said, "I said I'm not going to be here in the morning." And she just looked at him and turned and walked away. Well, in the morning, he wasn't there. He went to Dodge City. There in Dodge City, he's walking through and trying to find a job, but because of him not being very prominent or not being very forceful, nobody wanted to hire him or give him a job. So he's walking through. He goes to the Long Branch to sit down and to have a beer. And then he comes out and he bumps into a lady who has some packages, and he picks them up and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And she said, "That's fine." But in subsequent days, they became friends. And then in the town where Matt Dillon was, there was an outlaw that had come to town to kill Matt. And so he was there waiting because Matt Dillon was out of town. And the farmer is walking around trying to find a place to sleep. He goes back to the Long Branch, and there is the lady that he had bumped into. They become friends, and he talks with her. And then she says to him in some subsequent days, after the outlaw was there and he was abusing her, and the farmer stood up and said, "You won't treat her like that. You won't do that." And he kind of scared himself because he had never stood up to anybody. So the town became abuzz with who he was, and I'll call him Harold. Everybody was saying, "Harold is wonderful. Harold has done this. Harold has done that." And so the outlaw gets upset because he had made him look bad. And he said, "I'm going to kill you." The female friend heard that, and she said to him, "When a man dies, he makes it mean something." So one night, Matt Dillon is back, and he's out looking and searching out the town to make sure everything's locked up and fine. The outlaw was waiting in an alley. The farmer was out walking around too because he was trying to find a place to sleep. He saw the outlaw, the shadow of him. Matt Dillon hadn't seen it. The outlaw comes out with his gun already out. And the farmer runs out, and he yells, "No." And Matt turns around, but the farmer takes the bullet. And there, laying on the ground, his female friend comes running out. And he looked at her and he said, it meant something. And he died. On July 14th, when Officer Calvin Hall was shot, and for 3 days after that, he fought for his life, having, I think, Angel told me, 30-some or 13, I don't remember the number, of operations that he had. Going through so much. But his death meant something. It meant that peacemakers still survive. That we're all not about violence, but the heart, the caring heart, still lives. His death meant that in our communities, we must come together. For that was his desire. His death meant that we can still stand and stand for what's right. That we don't have to compromise. But his death meant we still stand and we still try to keep peace. He was a peacemaker. He chose to keep the peace. He chose to bring the peace. And he chose, like someone else, to go to his own to bring peace. We are peacemakers. We all still have a caring heart. But remember, when you see a police officer, there's a piece to his uniform that you can't see. You see the blue uniform, you see the hat, you see the badge, you see the gun. But there's another piece that says he's never off duty. He's always on duty because he has a caring heart. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." He took one home. He said, one of my children needs to come on home. But the spirit that he had, the peace that he chose to make, he leaves that to us. He challenges us. Be peacemakers and be called the children of God. God bless you.
The Mayor of the City of Pittsburgh, the Honorable William Peduto.
I remember that day. We were gathered down at headquarters. A beautiful day. One of the best parts about the job is being able to give the oath of office to public safety officials as they start their vocation. I always tell them, you're not starting a job, you're starting a vocation, something you were called to do, something that you knew you were going to be at a very early age, or something that you decided to change your career in order to become. And when I hear the bagpipes play, I often think, and I say a small prayer, that I never have to hear them a second time. But we're gathered here today when the bagpipes played. We gather to celebrate the life of Pittsburgh police officer Calvin Hall. And first, in celebrating that life, we need to thank his family, his loved ones, and his friends. For they're the ones that shared him with us. And we need to thank you for that. The sacrifices that he made were to protect the people of the city of Pittsburgh. That he took on is what you lost. And we're here to say thank you. Of hearing the stories of a potentially torturous sister, an older sister who Calvin, as we learned, had become the spirit of that family. Didn't put up with it, but enlisted the help of an older brother to get back. To the stories of a mama's boy, the youngest son, the youngest child, and somebody who always was worried about his mom and protected her like he protected us. To his beautiful and loving fiancée, Angel, who fought every bit as hard to make sure that Calvin's dream of becoming a member of the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police became a reality. And to the entire family that fought just as hard during those final days to make sure that as he fought for his life, you did as well. On behalf of the people of the city of Pittsburgh, thank you to all of you for sharing Calvin Hall with us. Second, we need to thank those that served with him, whether directly or indirectly, those that have chosen a career to become a police officer. As I said earlier, it's not a job. It goes against all the things that we are trained to do as people. When a building is burning, we run the other way. You run in. When somebody has a gun and they're threatening others, we seek shelter. You seek them. And you put yourself in a position that others don't choose or wouldn't choose. And Calvin was part of your family as well. From the very earliest time, Calvin Hall wanted to be a police officer. From the times of high school and earlier, he had already chosen what his dream was to be. As his brother told me, on that day was the proudest day for a big brother. That if you look at the pictures, his smile is larger on that day, realizing that Calvin had reached his goal and his dream of becoming a Pittsburgh Bureau of Police officer. In college, he worked his way through school to pay tuition by working at McKeesport Hospital. He would go on to serve and work and be able to get a job at Schumann. And then eventually, that dream of becoming a Braddock police officer. And then Point Park University. And then finally, the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police. That perseverance, that strength, that courage was with him from the time he was little. And it went all the way through the night that we almost lost him, the day that we did. Finally, we thank the man, Pittsburgh Bureau of Police Officer Calvin Hall. He was hand-selected to work an assignment that we had never done before, creating community-oriented policing, not with one officer in one neighborhood, but with a group of highly trained officers in community building to work in one of the most stressful and underserved communities within our city, and to be able not only to police the community, but to bring peace to the community. He defined that role. It was Sir Robert Peel, who lived from 1788 to 1850 in England, who's regarded as the father of modern policing. He twice served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and he founded the Metropolitan Police Service of London. His quote about what it means to be a police officer: "The police are the public, and the public are the police. The police, being only members of the public who are paid to give full-time attention to the duties which are incumbent on every citizen in the interests of community welfare and existence." That is who Calvin Hall was. He was a police officer, but he realized he was the public. He took on those duties, and it defined him in that role. He understood his critical role. He understood it when in uniform and when not. And he was always understanding that his critical role as a leader of the Pittsburgh community, but further, leading as a critical member of the community. The challenges of policing, especially during these days, are great. There are different ways that people view police, but Calvin was one that was able to bridge all the different gaps in order to be able to serve. There's a prayer that Mother Teresa basically had taken from a poem. It's a prayer that I think helps to describe the role of policing even more than Sir Peel. I often read this when we're swearing in the new officers, because in a way it defines what their responsibility is, but I don't know if there was an officer who could define it as well as Calvin Hall. People are often unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you're successful, you will win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. What you spend years creating, others could destroy overnight. Create anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, some may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have, and it will never be enough. Give your best anyway. In the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. To be able to do the job that he did, and to be able to have a philosophy of doing the best anyway, is rare. We lost a good one. But let's remember words spoken back in 1963. Let us remember sacrifices that others have made in this continual struggle. Let us remember that work of Calvin Hall and say we can do it as well. And let us carry that torch. Dr. Martin Luther King. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. Let us follow the work that Calvin Hall has started for us, and let that day of freedom begin today.
Director of Public Safety, Wendell Hesrick.
Good morning to Calvin's family, friends, and the many officers that have joined us here today. When I was a child, I wanted to be a police officer. I wasn't alone. Many children dream of someday becoming a police officer. As I did, those children spent countless hours watching TV shows like Dragnet and Adam 12. Guess I'm showing my age. They watched their heroes, and they couldn't wait to grow up so they too could be one of the courageous few who put on the uniform day after day and serve as a guardian and a protector. It's a common childhood dream to become a police officer, and it's easy to see why. We want to be police officers to make our parents proud, to make our friends proud, and to make the community proud. We want to be police officers because they are everything we hope to be: courageous, honorable, and selfless. We want to be police officers because we see them rightfully as heroes. And we've certainly seen examples of heroism in Pittsburgh recently. We saw it on October 27th when police officers ran towards gunfire, not away from it, to prevent a horrific tragedy from being even worse. But it's not just in times of tragedy that police act heroically. We find their heroism in the watch commander who talks a suicidal young man off a bridge in the middle of the night. We find it in a detective who assures a victim of a violent assault that they will not rest until justice is served. We find it in the patrol officer who diffuses a tense situation with words rather than weapons. And we find it in officers like Calvin Hall, a young officer just 2 years out of the academy who went out on his beat every day determined to connect with the people he served. Working in Northview Heights is not an easy assignment. It requires hands-on, community-focused approach in a neighborhood that has been underserved for years, if not generations. But it's exactly what Officer Hall wanted to be. And by placing himself there and dedicating himself to building bridges, he performed acts of heroism on a daily basis. Acts that can be easily ignored, but are vital to effective community police work. Indeed, the very act of pulling on a uniform and pinning that badge above that heart is in itself an act of heroism. Because when they put that uniform and badge on, yes, it makes kids want to be just like them, but it also makes them a target. We know this all too well. Here and elsewhere, police officers know it's a part of their job, yet they still put on the uniform and badge day after day, year after year. Why do we want to be police officers? Because they are intelligent. They gather evidence, ask tough questions, solve complex riddles in order to assure that justice is served. We want to be police officers because they are noble. They provide help to those who need it most and protect the most vulnerable members of our society. We want to be police officers because they are living example of our collective potential. They're who we want to be. Like so many kids in America, I wanted to be a police officer. Why? For all the reasons I've stated and more. Or to put it simply, we want to be police officers because we want to be like Calvin Hall.
Chief of Police Scott Schubert.
On behalf of the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police, I want to thank everyone for being here to help honor Officer Calvin Hall and support his family and friends during this most difficult time. To the family and friends, please accept our most sincere condolences on the loss of such a special and caring man. Our lives were forever changed in the early hours of July 14th when we received the call, a call that we pray we will never get. Calvin and his doctors fought valiantly at UPMC Presbyterian Hospital for several days while his family and coworkers stood by his side nonstop. Sadly, the Lord called Calvin home on July 17th. It's been heartbreaking for all of us, but I take some solace in the belief that God needed his strength and goodness elsewhere. We are extremely sad, angry, and confused from the senseless act of violence against such a good man. A man who dedicated his life to helping others and making a difference. One thing we will never allow is for the coward who did this to take anything away from Calvin's story or what he meant to all of us. Calvin lived his life to the fullest, and over the past 36 years, he crafted an amazing and wonderful story about his life and legacy. It's our duty, everyone in this room, to tell that story and to ensure that his legacy lives forever. All of us are extremely proud and thankful for the man that Calvin was in the life he lived. He was a loving fiance, son, brother, uncle, cousin, friend, police officer, partner, and selfless servant to all. Calvin always wanted to help people, and it was no surprise when his family said he wanted to be a police officer ever since he was a child. There is no doubt in my mind that Calvin always had something deep inside his heart and soul that caused him to seek justice, help those in need, protect the vulnerable, and make a difference in the lives of others. He was a person who always put the needs of others before his own. Calvin did more than dream about becoming a cop. He made sure his dream came true. Over the years, Calvin worked at Schumann Center, UPMC Hospital, McKeesport. He put himself through Indiana University Police Academy while still working full-time. After graduating the academy, he found employment with the Braddock Police Department and then Point Park University Police Department. Calvin wanted to become a Pittsburgh police officer because he knew he could make a difference in the community and help mentor kids. Calvin obtained that wish on December 3rd, 2017, when he joined our family. I can tell you that Calvin came highly recommended from his prior employers because of his strong work ethic, vibrant personality, and selfless commitment to helping others. I think that speaks volumes of the kind of person Calvin was and the impact he had on others. Over the last week, I've had an opportunity to speak with many people who knew Calvin, and everyone had similar heartwarming stories about this incredible man, friend, and police officer. One officer I had a chance to talk to knew and worked with Calvin for the past 5 years. She went to the academy with him. They worked at Point Park University together, attended classes at Point Park together, and eventually joined the Pittsburgh Police together. It's a pretty incredible path they took together. But what hit home to me was the story of how Calvin, when he was an officer at UPMC McKeesport, would check up on her pap, who was a patient at the hospital. Calvin would do it without being asked and would always update her every time he stopped to visit. It's those little acts of kindness that help define the character and quality of a person. I can tell you in all honesty that we were truly blessed when Calvin became a member of the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police, and we were all better people because of him. The death of a police officer hits us hard, even more so when it's a member of our own police family. Unfortunately, my interactions with Calvin were limited since he joined the police department. But what I can tell you, and I'm sure many will agree, when you talked to him, you knew immediately there was something special about him. His smile was contagious and his demeanor was genuine. You could tell instantly that he cared about being a police officer and he cared about making a difference in the community. To all of our police officers and other members of law enforcement in attendance today, thank you again for coming and thank you for your service. Thank you for choosing this noble calling and for dedicating your life to serving others and keeping people safe. It's comforting for us to know that you're out there patrolling our streets and keeping order. You have a difficult job on so many levels, but please know that we care about you and we appreciate the countless risks you expose yourself to help keep us safe. There's no doubt in my mind that it's that selfless service that sets you apart from others. You walk a line of courage, hope, and righteousness, and that's what allows good to triumph over evil. I must admit, even after 27 years as a cop, I'm always in awe at the fact that you run into danger without hesitation to help a person you don't even know, while others flee for safety. That speaks volumes about your character and who you are as a person and as a public servant. Please stay safe out there, and please watch out for one another. I want to thank the community for their outpouring of love and support for the family and our officers during this dark time. It truly means more than you will ever know. A very heartfelt thank you to our peer support team and to Sergeant Joe Lewis and his Northview Heights crew for everything you've done for the family during this most difficult time. We are forever grateful for what you did for Calvin and for his loved ones. In closing, I want to extend our love and condolences to the family, the officers of Zone 1 who worked closely with Calvin, his classmates, VR 17-02, the detectives who are tirelessly working the investigation, and all who were impacted by his goodness and love. When we swore Calvin into the Pittsburgh Police, I told the family that they would be a part of our police family as well. Those words were not idle. You will forever be a part of our family in blue. You will also find a strong and loving family with the concerns of police survivors, cops. You will find comfort with the Sholos, the Maleys, and the Kellys who share your grief and share your pain. So rest in peace, Officer Calvin Maurice Hall, badge 4673. You were a model officer and you made a difference. You made a difference in us, you made a difference with our community, and you made a difference in our life. You were loved by many, and you will never be forgotten. God bless you.
Commander Christopher Ragland. There is nothing to prepare us for a day like today. There is no blueprint or roadmap that guides us on how we should act, what we should say, or how we should feel. I choose to celebrate Calvin by sharing a memory. I had the privilege of being Calvin's commander at Zone 1 on the north side. One of the many things I like to do is meet with the new officers as they are assigned to the zone. During my meeting with Calvin, we chatted about his prior police work in Braddock and at Point Park University and about growing up in the city of Pittsburgh. One question I always ask during this meeting is, why do you want to be a police officer? When I posed that question to Calvin, a big smile came across his face, and without hesitation, he said, to make a difference in the community. As a commander, that is what you want to hear. But more importantly, I was pleased to see his actions matched his words. Over the next few months, Calvin approached me several times, seeking opportunities that could provide him greater access to the community. During those conversations, Calvin impressed me with his ability to relate to people, his positive attitude, his openness, and his genuine demeanor. When a position opened up in the Northview Heights Public Safety Center, I immediately thought of Calvin. This position would provide him greater access to the residents of the north side and the ability to make a difference. Calvin jumped at that opportunity and quickly developed trusting relationships with the residents and the Northview Heights team. Sometimes we as police officers underestimate what our presence, our words, and our actions can mean to those around us. Calvin never took that power for granted. Shortly after Calvin's death, a man came to Zone 1 with some food and a story about the difference Calvin made in his life. The man shared that he and Calvin spoke daily during Calvin's shift in Northview Heights. The man said that over the course of many discussions, he confided in Calvin about some personal troubles, including the feeling that his marriage was headed towards divorce. He said Calvin listened to him and provided advice and counsel. The man then looked at me and with his face full of emotion said those talks with Calvin saved my marriage. Although not a traditional police story, it exemplifies the true nature of Calvin in policing, the ability to listen, care, and help, however needed. Calvin was many things to many people: fiance, son, brother, uncle, friend, police officer, partner. But to all of you sitting here today, let's remember his most important role. Calvin was a difference maker. He will be missed by all.
Sergeant Joe Lewis.
I got to tell you, I've been standing here for about an hour, or sitting there for about an hour, dreading walking up those steps. I don't want to trip and fall. And I don't know what to do with my hands. So at this time, I want everybody in the room to get a big smile on your face. Because I know right now, Calvin is smiling with all of us because we're celebrating his life. Gotta go, Mark. Time for me to make a difference. Why did he make a difference? This quote came up in a conversation that I had with our desk officer, Officer Wright. I found out that before every shift that Calvin worked, he would go over, get his keys for the X33 car, and as he's about ready to walk out the door to go start his shift, he would turn around to Mark and say this. This was not just something that Calvin would say. It was his philosophy about work as well as life. Calvin truly made a difference as a police officer and as a man. Calvin once said to me, "Hey, Sarge, this is what I've always wanted to do, and I'm finally doing it." He loved being a cop, and he did it right. In his relatively short time up in Northview Heights, serving the communities of Northview Heights as well as Allegheny Dwellings, he made a real difference in the community. Everyone knew Calvin. He had the ability to talk to anyone about anything, and he always was very helpful. He was a role model to the kids in the neighborhood, but he was also the cop that would jump off a 10-foot wall to chase down the bad guy. And all done with a big smile on his face. That's right, Angel. He is a true guardian and will continue to be one with God. Often we don't realize how great someone is until they are gone. That wasn't the case with Calvin. We all knew how great he was, and he will never be forgotten.
Officer Reggie Island.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Officer Reggie Allen. I'm a Pittsburgh police officer, and I was Calvin Hall's partner. I would like to thank everyone who is present and all those watching from afar. You have all been great support for the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police and the family in this time of grief for an amazing human being whose life was unfortunately cut short. When Kyle graduated the police academy, he was assigned to Zone 1 police station on the north side of the city. The first time I met Kyle, I had no idea who he was. The first encounter I ever had with Kyle was when I was coming in the station from an arrest, and Kyle was coming in for the start of his shift. I was walking through the back door, and I heard a voice say, "What's up, Reg?" As I responded, "What's up," back, I turned my head in the direction of the voice. When I looked, I saw a short, bald, old man with a thick mustache walking towards me. I had no idea it was Calvin or who Calvin was or how he even knew my name. I just responded, "What's up, bro?" and ended the zone. From that day forward, Kyle spoke to me every time he saw me. We never had many in-depth conversations because we were on different shifts, but he always spoke to me and I always spoke to him. A few months later, with the help of One Northside and the Bureau Foundation, Housing Authority, the Chiefs and Command Staffs, Commander Ragland, Sergeant Lewis, myself, and 5 other officers came together to form a police unit that patrolled Northview Heights and Allegheny dwellings. Shortly after we got started, we were going through some transitions and transfers to and from the unit. Sergeant Lewis approached me one day and asked, "Yo, Reg, what do you think about bringing Calvin Hall up here for a rotation?" In my head, I thought to myself, you want to bring the old guy up here to this unit? But knowing Sarge, I knew if he brought someone's name up to be a part of this unit, he had to see something great in him. So going with the flow, I said, yeah, he would be cool. Sarge walked away, and that was the end of that conversation. A week or so later, I walked into the station, and Sergeant Lewis pulled me to the side and said, "Calvin's going to be on a rotation up here, and he's going to be riding with you." I thought to myself, what punishment did I deserve to get the old guy to ride with me? It was nothing against Kyle, but I didn't know him from a can of paint. A million thoughts ran through my head in a matter of seconds. I thought to myself, he's old, I'm young. He's short, I'm tall. He's bald, I have hair. I think you all can get the picture that we were complete opposites. My next thought was, he's a cool dude, but how will we work together as one? Since he is older, he probably just wants to sit around and do nothing all day. I'm a proactive guy, and I like getting into stuff. So I was like, no. I was determined that was not going to happen, and he was going to be forced to do everything I was going to do. I told myself I'm going to make him work even if he doesn't want to. I told Sarge with a smile on my face, okay, I'll show him the ropes, and then we got in the car. When you get a new partner that you've never worked with, you have to test them out to see how they are. And that was what I was determined to do. I had to see his mindset, what he likes to do, what he doesn't like to do, how he reacts to different circumstances, how he talks to people, and more importantly, if he can hang with me. If he couldn't hang with me, I was going to have a one-on-one conversation with Sarge and tell him he couldn't be my partner anymore. Of course, that conversation between Sarge and I never happened because he remained my partner from that day on. Once me and Kyle stepped in the car together, we immediately clicked. I was always looking to get into something, and he was more chill, which would balance me out. I was more of a quiet guy. Kyle was always talking to somebody. I tend to have a serious look on my face. Kyle was always smiling and jolly. They say magnets attract because they are opposite in a way that complements each other. As I mentioned, you can tell Kyle and I were total opposites. As Sergeant Lewis said, Kyle was always the yin to your yang. We took training classes together, we laughed together, made arrests together, got in trouble together, listened to each other's personal problems, gave each other advice, had each other's back. One of the toughest things that most partners were afraid of that Cal and I weren't, we corrected each other when the other person was wrong. A quick story that I want to tell is I remember when Cal first came up to the station, we were doing paperwork, and he got a call from his fiancée, Angel, about her getting her car inspected. The conversation was calm, and then I guess Angel told him that the car failed inspection and needed a couple $1,000s worth of work. I heard Kyle started yelling through the phone, "Your priorities are messed up, you're about to leave for Vegas and spend all this money, and and then you expect me to get this all done while you're gone? You should have thought about this before booking your Vegas trip. I'm not helping you." I then heard Angel screaming back at Cal through the phone. The argument went on a little bit, then Cal hung up. Once he got off the phone, I said, "Yo, Cal." He said, "What, Reg?" I said, "You know you're wrong." He said, "Bro, get out of my face." I said, "Bro, hear me out for a second. Angel went to get her car inspected and it failed. Don't you realize you told me a month ago that she had planned this Vegas trip months prior with her friends? How can her priorities be messed up if she had planned this trip months ago and just found out today that she has to pay money to get her car fixed?" Kyle laughed and said, "Dang, Reg, you're right. Now I got to call her back and apologize." We laughed. Kyle shook his head, called her back and apologized. From the outside, I heard Angel scream through the phone, "Thanks, Reg." Kyle and I were not only partners, but brothers that happened to be partners. A week prior to Kyle's incident, I was detailed to Cops and Kids that the Pittsburgh Police put on every year. I was detailed there for 3 straight weeks starting July 8th. Conversation as follows. Tuesday, July 9th, Calvin said, "I can't wait till you come back. Dude, I'm pissed." Reggie said, "Why, bro?" Kyle said, "It's not the same without riding with you." I said, "I'll be back soon enough, man." Kyle says, "How's Cops and Kids?" I said, "Man, these kids are bad as ever." Thursday, July 11th, Kyle said, "What day you coming back?" I said, "I don't know yet, a couple weeks, the end of the month." Calvin said, "My man." Friday, July 12th, Calvin said, "Dude, I need you back up here." That weekend I was away at a bachelor party, 3 hours away. Sunday, July 14th, I got a call from Sergeant Lewis at 2:43 in the morning. I didn't answer. He shot me a text, said call him as soon as possible. At 5:22 in the morning, I called Sergeant Lewis. To which he said Kyle was shot multiple times and is in critical condition. I immediately rushed home from on a bachelor party and went to the hospital. From that moment on until Calvin succumbed to his injuries on July 17th, I was at the hospital. Day and night by his side, I never left his room. When Calvin died in front of my face, I could not believe it. I lost my partner, and I lost my brother. As I sit back and think, why him? Why Kyle? This isn't fair. How could this happen to such a beautiful person who only wanted to do right by his community, but the community betrayed him? I sat back for days, not been able to eat, not been able to sleep, going up and down in my moods. A wise man told me, remember this, You do not realize now what God is doing, but later you will understand. I get lost in His hand because it's not fair that somebody took His life away from us. But I sit up here in front of you crying. I'm here to say that Calvin's legacy does not end here. Calvin's legacy continues, and we must make sure that. I would like to personally thank his mother, Luella Hart Carter, his father, Curtis Washington, his brother, Curtis Hall, his fiancée, Angel Warren, as well as all of his family and friends. You are the reason Calvin was the way he was. His morals, his belief, his actions, his character, his personality, all of that was a testament to you all collectively instilling that in him throughout his life. For that, I thank you all greatly. Today, we should mourn no more, but instead celebrate the life of that Kyle lived. Even though it was cut short by a cowardly act, we need to stand strong as one. United we stand, divided we fall. We need to unite as a whole to make us strong again and whole again as a community and as a city. Thank you.
And now we'll have a reading from Calvin's brother, Curtis Hall.
Hi, my name is Eugenia Hall Miller. I'm Calvin's sister. This is my brother Curtis. He's a bit nervous, so I'm going to do the reading. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out for showing their love and support for my brother. July 12th, I came to Pittsburgh because my daughter had some errands to run. My short was stay. I called my brother later on that day and asked him where's Mom. I've been calling her all day and I wanted to meet up us all together so we can see my mother. And he said, I can't find Mom. We'll just meet up at Mom's house. And I said, well, I want to see you all together because I don't know when's the next time I'll be in, so I'll just wait for Mom. We hung up. He called me back 10 minutes later. I really want to see you. Just meet me at Mom's house. I said, I'm so tired. I have to get on the road in the morning. I just don't think I'll make it. I'll see you when I come back again. He called me back again 10 minutes later. Just meet me over Mom's. I just really want to see you. I said, I'm so tired, Cal. I have to get on the road. I've been up all night. I'll see you when I come back. 20 minutes later, my daughter said, he called you back that many times? He must really want to see you. Let's just go see him. Let's just go over him in Angel's house. So I said, okay. And then she said, I'll get the kids ready. Well, she has a lot of kids, so I said, well, I don't know if Angel and Cal will be up for this. So I told her, we'll just see them next time. Then he called back again, and he said, when's the next time I'll see you? When will you be in town? I said, I don't know, but I'll make sure I see you when I come into town again. That was the last conversation that I had with my brother. I went home July 13th. July 14th, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I got a call from my son. He said, Uncle Cal's been shot. And I said, was he on duty? And he said no. When he said no, my heart sank because I knew he didn't have that bulletproof vest on. I had no clue that that would be the last time that I would ever talk to my brother. On July 17, 2019, we lost a son, a brother, a fiancé, uncle, nephew, and our best friend. His compassion for others and the love that he had for his family was like no other. He was the rock of our family. He was the glue that held us together. His hard work and his accomplishments spoke for itself. He was determined to achieve his goal, which was to protect and serve. He was well aware of the struggles that communities faced, and he was determined to help them break the barriers that were holding them back by networking in the communities. He was determined to build a bridge between civilians and police officers. We are deeply saddened that we will never get to see his big, beautiful, bright smile that lights up any room that he enters, his awesome personality, his unmeasurable amount of love that he had for his parents, his advocacy for the youth. My mom said that Calvin told her that the youth are our future. And he told her, in order to be successful, you have to work hard at everything you do. You have to be willing to put in the work because nothing comes easy, but it will pay off in the end. I want to read a quote that was requested by his parents. This quote is by Leo Bascaglia. Too often, we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around. On behalf of Officer Calvin Maurice Hall, I ask that you continue his legacy by committing random acts of kindness. You might not realize it, but every small interaction with someone is an opportunity to have a positive impact on both your lives. I also want to thank Calvin Hall's extended family, which is the men and women in blue. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for loving our brother, for showing so much support to us, for never leaving his side. You were there every day and every night. You never left his side. Even when I went to go view his body, someone was there with him at all times, and we want to thank you for that. We appreciate your love from the bottom of our hearts. In closing, please continue to keep us in your hearts and prayers as we try to cope through this difficult time. Thank you.
Calvin's father wrote a song dedicated to his son, and he's going to play that now for you. Curtis Washington.
Okay, I had wrote this when my first-born son was born, and then when Calvin was born, I I never finished the song. From the 80s, I had a couple lines written, and now that this tragedy has happened, I tried to do some revisions on it. Please bear with me, and I'll try to get through this. Celebrate this blessed day. Your spirit will run free, free to run all over the world eternally. Your loving memories we will keep locked up deep inside, for you're still a hero. Communities, you're the community's pride. Calvin Maurice.
Officers and troopers, please rise and don your caps. We'll now have a musical selection from the USCT Drum Corps. Officers and troopers, you are now dismissed to the outside.
All right, you're watching the police officers stream out of the memorial service, the indoor part of the funeral service, a memorial for Officer Calvin Hall, as drums are being played and the long blue line forms from the inside to the outside, Peggy, in what was a very emotional service, a different sort of service.
It was different, and it was really remarkable and touching in so many ways, David. I was really struck by what we last heard, and that was his father playing his own piece, you know, accompanying himself with guitar, a song that he says he wrote a long time ago but never finished, and just finished in the wake of his son's death. And it was really beautiful and mournful. It really, you know, caused my hair to stand on end. Really, it did. It was quite beautiful.
It was something to hear, and we heard from family members. His sister spoke because the brother was, I can completely understand this, just too emotional, too nervous to do it. So the sister by his side there spoke for the family. And then the officer, his partner, I think it was...
Reggie Island was his partner, and his delivery, it must have been so hard for him. It was funny, it was touching, it was terribly sad, and he broke down. He broke down, and I don't know that there was a dry eye in the place when he talked about not seeing his partner because he was doing the kids' camp that the police officers do. And the next time he saw him, it was in the hospital room, and he said, I never left his side after that. And he said on that day, I guess he died before his eyes. Reggie Island said, I lost my partner and my brother.
Peggy, I don't think there was a dry eye in the studio when he broke down and cried. He told stories only a partner can tell. Intimate stories, funny stories, how he called him old, he was young, I was tall, he was short, all the they were opposites, and yet they worked together perfectly. And again, all of those officers now filing out. The procession will continue on 5th Avenue and head to Homewood Cemetery, which that service also open to the public, and we will at some point continue our coverage on our streaming on our website and our streaming apps. But this service inside Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall continues. Here, zooming in, our camera is to the family of Officer Calvin Hall, and we watched them throughout the service. We saw the sister and the brother hugging as the father was playing his music.
And going back to the sister, you see her there, what she had to say, and again, she said it for the brother you see next to her, who was just simply too struck by everything to be, to feel comfortable talking. But it really resonated when she said, Calvin called me several times. He wanted, hey, when am I going to see you next? Why don't you, come over to Mom's? Let's get together. And she was too busy. And how often are we all in that position? We're saying, oh, next time, I'll see you next time. And it's true in human life, and maybe especially when you have a brother who's a police officer or a relative who's a police officer, you don't know when or if there will be a next time. And that's just such a human story. I'm sure, she must really think back on that now and have some regret, like, why didn't I do that?
There they are. Yeah, she said he was the glue, the rock of the family, and so sad we won't get to see his big, beautiful smile again. So many people, from the mayor to his partner to his family, spoke of his smile. The partner said, I tend to have a more serious countenance, and he was always smiling. We heard it over and over, and that's what made him such a wonderful police officer to work in community policing in Northview Heights.
And I hope that people listened when his sister said, what can we do? How about random acts of kindness as a tribute to her brother? And I think the world would be a better place, much better place, if we all took that advice and practiced smiling. I mean, it can be that simple, right?
Of course,
random acts of kindness.
That's a view from Chopper 11 that's live over Soldiers and Sailors in Oakland, as the police officers who are from around the area and far beyond have come to celebrate the life of Officer Calvin Hall, who made his mark, only 36 years old, although his partner called him old. That's because he was relatively new to the Pittsburgh police force. He was a young man, and he touched so many lives, as evidenced by a full Soldiers and Sailors Hall, and what you're seeing there from Chopper 11 out on kind of the front porch, if you will, of Soldiers and Sailors in the front lawn. Soon they'll take the casket, they'll drive down 5th Avenue, and they'll make their way to Homewood Cemetery, which is on Dallas Avenue in Squirrel Hill, where he will be interred, he'll be buried, and the service will continue there, and we will continue as well. We're on air now, live on Channel 11 WPXI. We will at some point switch to streaming on our website. We thank you for joining us for this coverage. We feel it's important to honor, police officers who fall in line of duty, and in particular an officer like Calvin Hall, who by all accounts was just a special young man. The chief said when you met him, you could tell there was something special about him. His smile was contagious.
And just thinking back on the speakers at today's ceremony, the police chief, Schubert, talked about him as a man who really dedicated his life to helping others. And he was really a mentor for those kids that he served in Northview Heights. And kind of the theme, I feel, today was really, and he mentioned this, the police chief, making a difference. Officer Calvin Hall made a difference. That's what he wanted to do. And I'm sorry, there's a blessing coming up. We'll be quiet now so you can hear Reverend Coleman give the final blessing at the service today.
Thank you, God. Father, we ask your blessings now upon this family. In this their time of sadness and sorrow, Lord God, we ask again, Father, that you would wrap your loving arms around them and strengthen them as they go forth, Lord. Father, allow them to continue to let the spirit of Officer Calvin Hall to stay in their family, Lord, that they would continue to live that legacy out of the caring heart and doing kindness, even as his sister said, that you would reach out and do a kindness to others. So give them that heart, give them that mind, give them that mindset. And Father, as all things we do it in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, that was a blessing, the final blessing by the Reverend Earlene Coleman. Well, it was quite a service, and as you said, it was a little different, but it was full of emotion and full of really remarkable stories that I think could really sum up his life. And again, I go back to the making a difference. He made a difference in the lives of the people he served, and that's what one would hope for a police officer. And there you see the pallbearers lined up, ready to take Officer Calvin Hall to his final resting place in Homewood Cemetery.
And Peggy, you spoke of the words spoken today by the Reverend Earlene Coleman from Bethlehem Baptist in McKeesport, and she talked about you're never really off duty as a police officer, especially Officer Calvin Hall, who had a caring heart, that the caring heart is never off duty, and he was a peacemaker, and it's something you spoke to, that legacy is that he wanted to make peace, let us make peace. And then the mayor, he thanked everyone, thanked his fellow officers, Calvin himself. We lost a good one, he said. He was followed by Wendell Hisbrick, the public safety director, who talked about so many people want to be police officers to do good. Just putting on the badge is an act of heroism for police, and we want to be police officers because we want to be like Calvin Hall.
Yeah, Wendell Hisrich said putting that badge and uniform on makes you a target. And I also thought it was quite interesting, the Reverend Coleman, who we just heard from give the final blessing, said, you know, you may not be wearing the uniform, but there's something that you cannot see and that the eye cannot see that is the uniform, and it's what's in the heart of each and every officer. You know, the commitment to service, the commitment to helping others.
That caring heart that she spoke of, that he clearly had. And when the police chief, Scott Schubert, ended and read his badge number.
Oh, that got
my goodness. I was ready to burst into tears on that one. And this is your final call. And then the zone commander, his zone commander from Zone 1, said he always wanted to make a difference in the community. Calvin Hall was a difference maker. As we see the casket, any moment now they will take it out. The family still sitting in front there in Soldiers and Sailors. Our live coverage here on Channel 11 WPXI-TV continues. We remember Pittsburgh police officer Calvin Hall. And outside, Peggy, you can see people gathered right along where the casket will be brought outside. And people, it's open to the public, and this is open to the public as well.
I wonder if our Mike Holden is available to talk about, pardon me?
Not yet, he will be, I'm told.
I see, okay. Okay, we do have a reporter, Liz Kilmer, who was inside during the service, and our reporter, Mike Holden, was outside during the service and witnessing right now what is this major gathering as they prepare to head to Homewood Cemetery.
And there from Chopper 11, you're seeing it live right there from overhead. The officers lined up. And a procession will begin from soldiers and sailors. And then we'll head down 5th Avenue, make its way into Squirrel Hill, Dallas Avenue, and Homewood Cemetery, where he will be buried. And a graveside service will continue there as well. But you were listening to the memorial service inside Soldiers and Sailors just now. It began at about 11:18, lasted well over an hour. Many speakers, many from the police department. You heard some beautiful, beautiful renditions of the national anthem by Pittsburgh police officer, and then Amazing Grace.
Oh, Amazing Grace was
wonderful.
Amazing.
It was amazing, Peggy. Yes,
yeah,
it was.
It was very moving.
So we wait for the officer's casket to come out and that final procession to begin, as I said, from Soldiers and Sailors to Homewood Cemetery. But we are looking back and remembering those wonderful words when another from his sergeant there in Zone 1, Joe Lewis, he took a moment and asked everybody gathered to smile, thinking of Calvin, because Calvin would smile knowing that they were smiling and thinking of his life and how he smiled so often. And he loved his job so much, he said to the sergeant one day, "Hey, Sarge, this is what I always wanted to do." He had that unbridled enthusiasm for a job, and when it was time to go, he said, "All right, gotta go. Time to make a difference."
I love that. I love that. And Sergeant Joe Lewis also talked about how he was a role model. He could just talk to anybody in that community and how much he loved being a police officer. We were lucky to have him for the short time in our city of Pittsburgh. We do have our reporter right now outside of Soldiers and Sailors Hall, and we want to go to him right now. Are you there?
Guys,
Mike?
I am here
there
right
you
now.
are.
If you can hear me, Mike Holden. I am
Thank
here
you,
right now, guys. Yes, it's a very emotional moment. We're right here on standby, awaiting for the casket to be brought out here in front of Soldiers and Sailors. And if we just kind of pan around, you can see the extremely large police presence. Officers from near and far standing in formation. Roughly 5 minutes ago, we started seeing some of the loved ones coming out and just holding one another and hugging one another and sharing in memories. And I think it's so important to express the far-reaching impact of this funeral in the memory of Officer Hall. Right before this started, I had the chance to talk with a lot of folks out here, and out of curiosity, I was just going up to them and asking them if they knew Officer Hall, if they had ever met them, and they had not. They told me that they saw the flashing lights in the funeral procession. They stopped what they were doing in their tracks, listened in, and just stood there and observed this moment. And they said they heard about this on the news, but it wasn't until you were out here and you saw the police response and the police presence and realizing what this officer did for the city of Pittsburgh. And we spoke with State Representative Ed Gainey, who said to me, this is a police officer who was in the streets working with the community, working with the kids, a 24/7 job where he was actually coming in on his days off to meet up with the kids and show that he cared about this and that there was a future and you could do so much in this city. So, emotional day out here. I'm going to send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, then, Mike, thanks very much. The family, as you saw, being escorted out.
Officer Reginald Island, his partner, Officer William Song, Officer Kevin Hodges, Officer Joseph Gucci, Officer Ronald Doria, Detective Adam Beatty, who we heard from, Officer Dustin Frizzell. hearse there, ready to make the final journey to his resting place in Homewood Cemetery.
Always just an unbelievably powerful and emotional moment to see the flag-draped casket of someone who has served, in this case, Pittsburgh police, and then the small army of his fellow brothers and sisters in blue standing at attention and respect.
David, we've done far too many of these, but we are always in awe and moved by this gathering of all these brothers and sisters in blue, and the reverence, the honor they show their fallen colleague. It is just powerful.
And his sister, speaking for the brother when they were both up there, just gave such a heartfelt thank you that every step of the way, from the moment he was shot to those days in the hospital and then thereafter and now, police and his partners and all of those police officers, someone was always there for the family.
She said even after he passed, as they were there saying their final goodbyes, somebody representing the police department, the police bureau, was there.
They made sure they were not alone. And as you heard, some of the commanding officers and others say, you are always part of our family now, the Pittsburgh police family. We will always be with you whenever you need us. And she spoke of those examples.
And that kind of comfort can't be minimized. That, I'm sure, has been a source of great solace to Calvin Hall's parents, to his brothers and sisters, who had nieces and nephews. As we've heard, he had quite a large and loving family.
And I know some of you are looking at the clock maybe and are programming this afternoon. We have now gone past the 1 o'clock hour. We're going to stay with this as the procession begins toward Homewood Cemetery, and then after that we will continue our coverage on our streaming apps on our website. So whichever streaming app you use, I know there are a few, but our website as well, WPXI.com. We will continue as the procession moves to the cemetery, and the funeral service at the graveside is open to the public. You know, we were invited to cover this service at home, at the Soldiers and Sailors, I should say, and also at the cemetery as well, just so you know. And we wanted to bring this to you, and so we're going to stay with this for a few more minutes on Channel 11 WPXI-TV, and then, as I said before, we'll switch to our streaming apps. So they are no doubt ready to begin the final procession at any moment. You're watching both ground level pictures and from Chopper 11 as those officers who stood at attention are now ready to move. And Peggy, jump into those, it seems like hundreds of police cars that had gathered in support today.
Well, yes, and I was wondering if there is an estimate out there, you know, just looking at it. I mean, clearly there are hundreds of officers there. We're hearing that they came from many other states as well. You know, I don't know if there's an official estimate, but I would think there are at least 400 or 500 officers.
I think that sounds about right. You heard our traffic anchor and expert Tricia Pittman before speak of, she's seen this many times because she's had to cover the traffic angle of roads being shut down and all the official vehicles and the police cars, and she thought it was as large a gathering as she had seen. So that tells you something about this officer who was so well remembered and beloved.
And perhaps this is a good time to bring Tricia in to talk about the procession as these cars are going to be leaving Soldiers and Sailors Hall in Oakland and making their way to the cemetery in Homewood. Earlier today there were many road closures, and then things opened up again, and now the road closures will be beginning again. Tricia.
Yes, earlier this morning we did have that closure coming from the North Shore into Oakland. They had closed off the Fort Duquesne Bridge, the Fort Pitt Bridge, Parkway East. All of that was closed for a little over an hour. It took about an hour to get those officers from one point to another. As we were saying earlier, hundreds of officers from around the area coming to say their final goodbyes and respects here to Officer Hall. Now, at this point, as they leave Oakland to get going on 5th Avenue in the outbound direction to head over toward the Squirrel Hill area, they are going to have to probably go behind Soldiers and Sailors and then go back up to Bellafield. That is where 5th Avenue once again becomes both ways instead of just a one-way street. So they'll work their way back out to 5th Avenue, continue 5th Avenue. They have an option once they get to Squirrel Hill North to either go down Wilkins to South Dallas, or they may continue 5th Avenue out through the Squirrel Hill area and then continue down a little bit of Penn there until they get to South Dallas, once again taking them out to the area of the Homewood Cemetery near Frick Park. So not quite sure exactly if they're going to continue 5th to Penn or if they're going to go 5th to Wilkins. It's something we'll have to keep an eye on. Just keep in mind, if you are traveling along 5th, trying to get through the area out by CMU or continuing out toward the area of Squirrel Hill North, that you could see some rolling closures along 5th Avenue proceeding over the next, I'd say, probably half hour to 45 minutes. And then in addition to that, those crossroads that come up to 5th Avenue will also be blocked off. So they're asking that you just avoid that general area. Also, we do see in this situation many times that people do like to line the streets to pay their final respects, and that definitely encouraged. So if you would like to continue up toward 5th Avenue to see that funeral procession go by, they are getting ready to leave here shortly.
Tricia, thank you very much. And no doubt after the funeral service is over, there's going to be a lot of vehicles, police cars, and so on that will be departing that area. So as Tricia's cautioned you, just have some patience in that area really throughout the afternoon.
Well, we heard earlier from our Mike Holden, who was stationed outside Soldiers and Sailors Hall. Let's take a listen to Liz Kilmer, who was inside for the entire ceremony. Liz, what struck you the most? Is Liz inside?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you, Liz. Yeah,
yes.
Go ahead.
What struck you?
Yeah. So it was such a beautiful ceremony here, and there were definitely moments of laughter, but certainly moments of tears. I think what really touched me was hearing from Officer Hall's partner. That was. It started out with, a lot of laughs, and he sort of talked about getting to know Officer Hall and joked kind of about their trivial differences and how they, ended up being brothers. I think one of the most emotional moments was he talked about getting that call that Officer Hall had been shot, and talked about being by his side at the hospital until, the terrible day where he was pronounced dead. We heard from several members of law enforcement. We heard from city officials, the mayor, and we heard from loved ones. I think another really touching moment was hearing from Officer Hall's sister and how she talked about him being the rock of their family, and talked about, something that we heard frequently was that he really felt called to serve the community. He really, he wanted to be a police officer. He worked hard to get to where he was, and that he, even his sister said, wanted to kind of bridge the relationship between the community and police. So I'm going to, for now, send it back to you guys, but really emotional in here this afternoon.
Yeah, it was emotional here as well in the studio as we watched really this moving service and the moving tributes. Liz mentioned his partner, Reggie Island. I think he got everyone because it was so real.
Yes.
It was so real, so raw.
It was the totality of a friendship, of a partnership beginning. He didn't know who this man was and what he was like, and then in the end calling him my brother, my partner. And when a tough, tall Pittsburgh police officer, we're looking live at where the Homewood
this is
Cemetery.
Homewood Cemetery. It looks like it will be a much smaller service there, but this is where Officer Hall will be buried and where that hearse carrying his body will soon wend its way through our city streets and make its way there. But continue, you were saying, to have this big guy, you know, talking
big, tough,
so
tall
honestly.
Pittsburgh police officer who is, you know, presumably seen it all, to break down in tears in that way was really something. And it speaks to Officer Hall. And the final thought we're going to give you on air here as we look at his final resting place, and again, we have the permission of the family to be there for this, is that everybody said we must continue his legacy of caring, of loving, smiling, doing good in the community, serving the community. It's what Officer Hall would have wanted.
Thanks so much for joining us for this special report. You can look for updated coverage of all the memorials to Officer Hall tonight on Channel 11 News at 5.
You continue watching our coverage right now on our streaming apps, WPXI and WPXI.com.
Nice, clean system, and nobody knows because it just hooked up to your sink.
It's really good, nice and tidy. I like the fact that it comes in its own little storage unit, and you just take that out like a little caddy and do all of your plants outside.
This one's available Lee Valley, online, ships anywhere you need it.
Very nice.
Perfect. All right.
Very good. That's a good toy.
So this is another one, Tracy. I'm going to pass this over to you.
Sure.
Have you seen this?
You know what? Maybe I've seen something like it. I do work on City Line.
It's a chunk of wood.
It's a chunk of wood.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can smell it, but it's actually baked wood.
Oh, it smells kind of good.
It does smell good. So here's what's really cool about this one. This is a product called Thermery. Okay. What's amazing about this decking system is it's real wood, but they bake it to 450 degrees.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
It takes out all the moisture, but it genetically changes the molecules in here. So now, if you're in an area that has, say, carpenter ants or termites or anything that's going to eat your outdoor wood, they don't like this. They won't chew it.
Oh.
Here's the other thing. It won't rot. No rot, no damage. Yeah, 25-year guarantee on this product. So now you can have wood on your deck